Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome in to Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for being here Monday, March 24th. We are in the new studio as of right now. Still getting things set up, but we got a little bit of a backdrop going on here. Going to add some more lighting and have a good time, maybe get some curtains so we can really control the lighting here in the studio a little bit more. But couldn't be happier to be in the new studio, to be in the new home. Really appreciate y'all supporting us. So we are going back to regular schedule, and we have 1 month until the NFL draft. It is going to be all draft all the time here for the next month for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, we'll cover any breaking news, anything like that, rumors, news, all that stuff. But it's going to be a lot of draft content for the next month, getting you ready for the 2025 NFL draft, a draft in which the Jaguars have a lot of needs and have a lot of picks. They've got 10 picks coming up. So it is Mock Draft Monday. Obviously, we're going to be getting into a Jaguars mock draft, and it's going to be predictive, and it's going to be a specific type of scenario, right, where the Jaguars are going to be able to potentially trade down. I think that is one of the most enticing potential scenarios for the Jaguars, because I think they view this, James Gladstone, Liam Cohen and company, they view this as a situation where they want to add as many of their guys that they really value as they can. You saw that in free agency where they added 10 players that they really wanted, including Fred Johnson this past week. And I think that they're going to look to add as many players, prospects, to this ecosystem, as James Gladstone likes to call it, over the next 2 years as they possibly can. They currently are scheduled to have 21 draft picks over the next 2 years. With this mock draft, they're going to have even more. So we're going to dive into that. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. So as I mentioned, the Jaguars, they get a trade offer. In this scenario that we ran over on the PFF mock draft simulator, Abdul Carter fell to 5 overall. And there was a bunch of teams excited to potentially jump up to land Abdul Carter. And I think that's possible, right? If Cam Ward goes to Tennessee at 1, then at 2, the Browns take either Shedeur Sanders or Travis Hunter. Then at 3, the Giants take either Shedeur Sanders or Travis Hunter. Then at 4, the Patriots take an offensive tackle. All of a sudden, there you go. Abdul Carter's there at 5. And do I think the Jaguars should consider drafting him if he's there at 5? Yeah, they should consider it. But overall, I think that would be an indication that they don't value Trayvon Walker very highly, which I think is a mistake. I think Trayvon Walker is a very good player. I think that he's a type of edge, along with Josh Hines-Allen, that you feel like you can build around for the long term. So that's not the direction I think the Jaguars will go. I think the Jaguars in that situation, if folks were interested in potentially trading up for an Abdul Carter, or if one of the quarterbacks falls to 5, which could happen as well, I don't think it will, but it could, trade down. And the Dolphins are interested in trading up here to 5 overall from 13, that's a pretty far drop for the Jaguars, pretty substantial. So the Jaguars, to move down from 5 to 13, they're going to get the 13th pick, they're going to get the 48th pick, they're going to get the 116th pick, and a 2026 second round pick. So you're talking about trading a 1 for a 1 plus 2 2s and a 4. Pretty steep drop off from 5 to 13 in terms of the draft value, but I think that you're going to be able to get a very good player at 13 in this draft. And sitting there at 13, Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan, was still on the board. And I think that the overthink on Will Johnson, the kind of prospect fatigue, cannot be more overstated. Like, it's watch the tape with Will Johnson. When he's fully healthy, he's been fantastic. And he dealt with a little bit of a foot injury this year. I don't think anybody should be holding that against him. He is going to have a private workout. And yeah, you can see the lighting getting a little dark here. We'll get our little key light on there. Will Johnson. The guy is a stud on tape. I think he can be a very good man-to-man cornerback and a very good zone corner. You look at his ability to play on the ball, to play off the ball. He's got the size you're looking for. He's got the play style, the smarts. I think it's clear that he studies on tape and understands route concepts, how and route combinations as well, how offenses are going to try to attack the defense that his defense is playing specifically. So I think Will Johnson would be a fantastic pick for the Jaguars at 13. And I am trying to be predictive here. I think in this scenario where the Jaguars are able to trade down to the early teens, Will Johnson would make a lot of sense for them, and it's a very good chance that he potentially falls due to just overthink and the fact that he wasn't able to participate at the combine, didn't have his best year in 2024 because of the foot injury. But you look at this guy's body of work overall and his projection moving forward. I think Will Johnson looks like a prototype starting corner in the NFL. And to be able to get him at 13 overall, I think could be potentially too much for the Jaguars to pass on. So I think Will Johnson would be the pick here for the Jaguars at 13 in this scenario. And I think it'd be a great pick. You now have Will Johnson, you have Tyson Campbell long-term. I don't think that Jordan Lewis is a long-term play for them. I think that's a short-term play. I also don't think that having a Jarian Jones should stop you from selecting a Will Johnson as much as I like Jarian. And Jarian can be a long-term fixture in Jacksonville, right? And you're gonna have a lot of nickel or a lot of defensive backs on the field in this modern NFL at times. So I think there's plenty of usefulness for Jordan Lewis, for Jarian Jones, for Will Johnson, and Tyson Campbell to all be on the field at the same time during specific situations. Is it a situation where maybe there's going to be a little bit of overlap with some of these guys? Yeah. But Will Johnson, outside of Tyson Campbell, he's the only player I think you feel great about on the outside on the roster at this point. So at 36, Darius Alexander, interior defensive lineman out of Toledo, somebody who I value in the teens in this draft. He's a little bit of an older prospect, but he is an insane athlete, very explosive at his size. And he's got a bag of pass rush moves. He's got versatility to move around the line of scrimmage. You saw him winning as a 5-tech at the Senior Bowl, putting moves on offensive tackles. So this is the type of guy, deep interior defensive line class. I think that he's going to be a 3-down player, and you can get excited about building around him and Mason Smith long-term, while also having Eric Armstead and Devon Hamilton as part of that group in the meantime, where you have a pretty high floor and ceiling, I think, with a group like that features Darius Alexander. And we're going to get to the rest of this mock draft, but first, got to remind y'all about Underdog Fantasy. Grab your phone and your dancing shoes. It's time to make entries on March College basketball with Underdog. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward. Signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code DuvalDaily, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash to play. Choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, i.e. points, assists, rebounds, and more. Y'all already know. My Gators are still dancing. I'm looking at Walter Clayton Jr. to go higher on points in the next round. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code DuvalDaily to claim your new customer special of a free pick, and your deposit offer must be 18 plus, 90 plus, Alabama and Nebraska, 90 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, present a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. So with the Jaguars' first 2 picks, we have taken care of a lot of the potential problems on the defensive side of the ball, both short-term and long-term. I think if you line up today with your 3 corners being Jordan Lewis, Jarian Jones, Tyson Campbell, I think I don't know how it's going to go with one of those guys being on the outside. With Will Johnson being out there, I feel a lot better. And with Darius Alexander kind of shoring up the interior of the defensive line, in my opinion, raising that ceiling and that floor, that's a big deal. And at 48, because again, we got the 48th pick trading with the Miami Dolphins, we go get that wide receiver to pair up with Brian Thomas Jr. long-term. I loved the De'Ami Brown signing. I love him being in Jacksonville. I think he has a complementary skill set both to Brian Thomas Jr. and with Liam Cohen's offense. Liam Cohen loves the screen game. De'Ami Brown excels there. He also has the ability to stretch the field vertically and open things up for Brian Thomas Jr. if they want him on underneath or intermediate routes, right? There's a great skill set there, but they only signed him for a year, right? So Parker Washington is entering the final year of his rookie deal very soon. His contract, he was in actually, this was his second year, wasn't it? Let's look at, I don't want to be giving y'all misinformation here. Parker Washington contract, 2026 is the final year of his rookie deal, right? So he's got 2 years left. Not a long time. And also, you don't necessarily feel like he's going to be a starter for you, right? So you have Brian Thomas Jr., who is going to be there long term, right? You have De'Ami Brown, who's only under contract for a year. So if he goes out and has the type of season that he hopes he's going to, he's probably going to go get paid by someone else, right? And then you have Gabe Davis, who probably only going to be with the Jaguars during the 2025 season. I think contract-wise and performance-wise, you definitely would look at that and say he's probably not a guy that's going to be around beyond 2025. What else do you have, right? You have got to go get a receiver that will complement Brian Thomas Jr. long term. I think that there's zero question about that in my mind. So Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, Iowa State, makes a lot of sense to me. And I think he'll make sense to the regime here in Jacksonville because he's a big-bodied guy who does have some really, really good athleticism. At 215 pounds, ran a 4.47 40-yard dash, jumped well. He has Velcro hands, does not drop easy ones, does not drop hard ones, right? He is really good in contested catch situations. He's good at those 50-50 balls. He's a good route runner at his size. So I think there's just a lot of aspects of this, and you go back and look at Trevor Lawrence thrown to a different Higgins with a similar profile, T. Higgins, and making a lot of noise at Clemson. So I think Jaden Higgins would be a great complement to Brian Thomas Jr. He can be a chain mover. He can be a red zone threat. He can be third down. You need somebody to be reliable besides Brian Thomas Jr. because they're just trying to blanket him. Jaden Higgins, I think, can be that guy. And again, with the way the Jaguars wide receiver room is currently constructed, I would be very surprised if they come away from the first 2 days of the draft at this point without having a new wide receiver. At 70 overall, we go Andrew Makuba, the safety out of Texas, who Makuba tested well enough, with the 4.45 40, and he has great tape at Texas, playing safety for them. And you have Eric Murray, who I think is going to be more of a box safety, more of a guy that you don't want necessarily playing center field. But I think Makuba and him, they complement each other well for 2025, and I think Makuba is going to be a long-time starter in the NFL. So that's a pick I would be fired up about, and one that just makes sense, I think. The value, the skill set, all of it kind of aligns there at 70, and the need. At 88, the Jaguars go get Tate Ratledge, the Georgia interior offensive lineman, guard. He dealt with a little bit of injury this year, so I don't know that he was 100%, but he tested incredibly well, and his tape has always been very solid. He's also, guy wears number 69, got a beautiful mullet. Somebody dubbed over Freebird during his 40-yard dash. It's all kind of adding up for a perfect offensive lineman in the NFL, and I think that he'd be someone that can come in, and you look at the Jaguars' interior offensive line. You have Ezra Cleveland on an expiring, well, it's not expiring. It's a contract the Jaguars can get out of following 2025. His contract expires in 2026. Robert Hainsey, 3-year contract. You can get out after the 2026 season. Same thing with Patrick McCary. So I think those two signings were to raise the floor, as James Gladstone has said. I think Tate Ratledge can be a long-term play for them. He's 6'6", 308 pounds, has big hands, great grip strength, 4.97 40-yard dash, 1.72 10 split, 32-inch vert, 9.5 broad, 7.38 3-cone. He had a really good day at the combine, and he's just been a good, solid starter throughout his entire career. He's feels like a Liam Cohen interior offensive lineman guard to me. So that's somebody I can definitely see. And the Rams, they started building their offensive line to be a exclusively gap power run team, basically. They went that way with their running backs as well. I don't think that's quite the direction the Jaguars are going to go. So that's something to keep in mind, but definitely something to watch. At 107, Femi Oladejo, we've talked a lot about him here on the channel, and he's just a guy that the arrow's pointing up. Converted down from off-ball linebacker to edge during the season this year, was very productive, physical run defender, test well, got all the size and intangibles you're looking for, and that's another thing we always talk about, intangibly rich. I think each of these guys brings something personality-wise to the Jaguars that they'll be excited about, that James Gladstone and Liam Cohen will be excited about, Femi Oladejo included, who brings just a lot of energy on the field. And Aeneas Peebles and Powell Ryland, we've talked about them a lot as well. These are two guys in defensive linemen that come from Virginia Tech that are both a little undersized for their spot. Aeneas Peebles at interior defensive line as kind of a 3-tech. Anton Powell Ryland as an edge defender. If you want to have pass rush in waves, if you want to have that NASCAR package on third down, maybe it's been a long game, a long half, whatever it may be, a long drive, you need to get off the field, your guys are tired, you get these two in there and they just heat up the quarterback because they both have a variety of pass rush moves and great quickness, speed, explosiveness off the ball. I think that'd be a lot of fun, that pairing. And, you like to see kind of trends. That would be a fun trend for James Gladstone to establish. Jared Verse and Braden Fisk last year, a little bit lower in the draft, not high value picks this year, but doing it on day 3 of the draft would be pretty cool. Kyle Williams, another one we always talk about. I don't know how he seems to be falling through the cracks right now, but that's exactly what you see, at least from a draft media standpoint. But at 5'11", 190, has all the skill in the world that you could ask for as a route runner and a catch point guy, somebody who's explosive with the ball in his hands. He tested well to me, and he's very productive. Kyle Williams out of Washington State, the receiver, would be, again, I don't think you just need one receiver. You've got to find that one receiver to complement Brian Thomas Jr. But you look at this wide receiver room, you need multiple guys to come in here and fill this group out long term, because you just don't have many pieces that are long term in the wide receiver room outside of BTJ. So at 182, the Jaguars go get a backup quarterback beyond what they have here. Obviously, they signed Nick Mullins from Minnesota, who has familiarity with the system, familiarity with Grant Udinski, but they go get, ironically enough, Minnesota Golden Gophers starting quarterback Max Brosmer, who I think projects to be a quality backup who can come in and fill in for you long term, learn behind Nick Mullins and Trevor Lawrence, and then again be that kind of fixture at backup for 4 or 5 years moving forward. Maybe longer. Somebody like that, though, I think makes a lot of sense for them later in the draft. Round 6, 194. Somehow Miles Frazier is another one that seems to slip through the cracks as well. I don't see him being available at this point, but the LSU interior offensive lineman would make a lot of sense. I think this is another just spot here, some point late in the draft, where going another interior offensive lineman could really make sense for the Jaguars to continue to kind of develop that depth there. They really went after depth with the tackle position this year in free agency, looking at Adoga and Johnson, and I think they could do it on the interior of the offensive line in the draft. Luke Lachey, tight end out of Iowa. We've talked about him before at 221 overall. This guy, what can you say? I mean, he's got the right school he's coming from for a late round tight end. You cannot doubt Iowa late round tight ends. He's got the pedigree. His dad was a football player. He's got the skill. I mean, he's a big boy who can move more nimbly than you would expect. He's got the ability to be this type of tight end that I think fits the mold for Liam Cohen, where you can line him up in line. He can block for you, but you can also add some as a receiver. So I think Luke Lachey makes a lot of sense at that point. And so in this draft, I think we've hit on everything that you could ask for. We ended up having 13 pick or 12 picks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 picks. I think all of them are guys that probably make the roster when you look at it. And that continues this kind of roster churn, this kind of roster turnover that this new regime is looking for. And I would be a fan of this. I think it's very realistic. Obviously, predicting what will happen in the NFL draft is a fool's errand, but that's what we're here to try to do today, Mock Draft Monday. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Y'all have a good one.